Academic research has become very popular, and throughout the world in most of the colleges, universities, research are going on and good research reports are coming. But most of the cases, what is the thing is, especially the beginners, after their completion of their postgraduate education, when they are entering into the research field, they are not knowing what to do. Well, even though they have got a guide to guide, in most of the cases, the research scholar is finding very difficult to present a very good research report. Even though they have got the background, they have got the idea, they have got the methodology in their hand, it is not possible for them to have a good research report. For this, Pauline Young, she has given a thing that is known as the preparation of research design in her book Social Service and Research Method. Under this thing, I am giving a brief view how to prepare a good research design. Any research design, a good research design should have the following things. When a research design is prepared with all these contents, definitely the research design will be very useful and the scholar will get a clear idea. He has to spend time for the preparation of this research design. When the scholar is preparing the research design as per the specification of Mrs. Pauline Young, that is, he has completed, she or he has completed 50% of their research. Here the thing that is the course description of this research design is statement of the problem, the context of the study, objectives, hypothesis, area and time of the study, source of information, overview of literature, operational definition of the concept, methodology, limitations and chapter arrangement. If the scholar is preparing the research design under the following heads, definitely he is preparing the research in a proper manner, and actually he has traveled 50% of their research process. Actually, when a good research design is prepared, we can say that the scholar has completed 50% of their research. Introduction to research design. Research design is a blueprint for research. When an engineer is constructing a building, for that he has to prepare the blueprint. The blueprint is the basis. On the basis, the engineer or the persons, those who are indulged in the construction of the building, is constructing. So blueprint is the basis for engineering work. Similarly, research design is the thing that is known as, it is the blueprint for his research. Well prepared research design is a well prepared blueprint, and the scholar can completely finish his work. It is the guidepost for the researcher to proceed in his research attempt. So when we are traveling on road, actually the guidepost is guiding us to where to travel and how to travel. This is the way in which the well prepared research design is the guidepost, and the researcher can easily reach his destination. A well prepared research design is considered to be a thing that is a good guidepost, and the travel of the research scholar will be smooth. Depending on the problem in social sciences are not the same, problems are different. The scholar, as per the problem, he has to prepare the research design. There is no universal design for all the problems in social sciences. When the problem is analytical one, he has to prepare an analytical design. When the problem is an explanatory one, he has to prepare an explanatory research design for his problem. When he is finding a solution for a problem, he has to give this thing that's known as diagnostic design. And when you want to describe a situation, he has to prepare a descriptive design. So whatever may be the problem, for that, depending upon the nature of the problem, the scholar has to prepare the research design. Then only it is easy for him to proceed in the specified line, and he will be successful in completing the project. If the design is prepared under the following heads, half the research is finished. So we have given the contents. So under the basis of this content, if the research scholar is preparing the research design, definitely will be successful, and he can complete the research in a specified time, in the specified manner. We can say that 50% of his research work is finished even in the process of preparing the research design. The scholar has to state clearly the problem under research. The statement of the problem is the most important thing. He has to mention the title. Title is the most important thing for research. From the title itself, we can say that whether he has selected whether he has chosen the good title or not. When he has chosen the title, he has to state the problem. What is the problem? What is the nature of the problem? And what is the need for the problem? All these things he has to state. The nature of the problem and its significance. So doing research is, that is, we are spending our money, we are spending our time. When we are doing all these things, that should have the social relevance. The scholar should specifically mention the significance of the problem and the need for these things, and why he is doing the research is also the most important thing, for which the context of the study, in the case of the statement of the problem, he has to mention. The next caption under which he has to prepare the thing is the context of the study. In what context the research is carried out is an important step in research. Say there is problems are, for example, the person who is doing research in agriculture, he may be selecting different aspects of agriculture. The problem in industry, he may be doing this thing in industry will be having continuous problems. Similarly, in almost all social subjects, we have got the problem for so many years, but here the research scholar has to specify the context in which he has taken the problem. For example, in the case of agriculture, the global agriculture, the agriculture production is declining. The population of many countries are increasing, under which if he has to state the context in which he is doing agriculture, that is the failing agriculture during increasing population. When the population is increasing, we have to feed the population. When we have to feed the population, to take care of the agriculture. So the context of the study is the most important thing. The person has to mention the context in which he is doing the research, and he has selected the problem, and the research design should also mention the context. Objectives. Next thing that we are very careful in preparing is the objectives. For any research, the scholar is trying to find the answer for questions in mind. What is research? For many research, we have got some question, unanswered question. For unanswered question, we are trying to find some problem. We are trying to find the answer. So when we are trying to find the answer, the research solution is obtained. So the problem in our mind is put as an objectives. Any research scholar can put his question in the form of objectives. For any research scholar, he is trying to find answer for the questions in his mind. That problem is considered to be the objective. He can mention few objectives, one or more objectives. It is not necessary to put many objectives. We can put one or two objectives, and one or two basic questions for which the research is carried out. Why he has chosen the problem? What are the questions in his mind? How he is trying to find answer? For that, he has specified the objectives. Objectives are the basic questions. When the objectives are framed in a suitable manner, the travel of the research will be smooth. The process of research will be smooth, and without any deviation, the scholar can travel, and the scholar can find the solution for his research. So objectives, when we are having some questions in our mind, for the questions we are having some answers. The answers may be, say in most of the cases, answer need not be the correct one. Say this is the question, for this the answer from his observation or from his analysis or from his understanding or reading from some literature, he can have some idea in his mind. So hypothesis is a tentative statement, or this is the working idea on which the research scholar is going to do research. When he is going to do some research, for each objective, he can frame a corresponding hypothesis. The hypothesis need not be in large in numbers. He can have few hypotheses as in the case of the few objectives that he has framed. Hypothesis can be formulated for analyzing earlier literature by observing the social problem. So how to formulate the hypothesis? The formulation of a good hypothesis is considered to be the most important thing in research. In the formulation of a hypothesis, the research scholar can go around the literature available in the earlier works, and also he can observe the society, observe the social problem. From this he can formulate the thing that is known as the hypothesis. When the hypothesis is formulated, he can put his hypothesis as 1 and 2, 3. And when he is having the objectives and hypothesis in his research design, the scholar need not deviate to other problem. He can take the connected problem, connected objectives, and he can travel smoothly within that limited area. The scope of the research is also defined, and there is no need for him for deviate from the objectives and hypothesis, and it is easy for him to analyze, find solution and interpret and find the conclusion for his research. So this is the most important thing. The formulation of objectives and hypotheses are considered to be the most important thing in the case of social science research. After finding this thing that is known as the objectives and hypotheses, the research scholar has to put the area and time of the study. Research cannot be carried out for the universe as a whole, or the nation as a whole, or the state as a whole. Especially academic research, the area should be very important. In addition to the area, time is also the most important thing. Usually the research scholar used to select a region. Region is considered to be a homogeneous with all uniform or identical qualities. So the research will be more suitable, and the research scholar can find solution for a region that is specified as an area. So area may be, even the case of some heterogeneous region, for administrative convenience, we can select a district or taluk or a block for our analysis or for our research. Time, in addition to that, time is also more important. That is, we have got records for a long period, and it is not possible for the research scholar to do research for hundreds of years. And depending upon the problem, depending upon the nature of the problem, we can select 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. When we are collecting this data for 10 years or 15 years, it is easy for the research scholar to collect data. The time series data is available from some secondary sources. When the secondary sources data is available, it is easy for the research scholar to analyze historically, empirically, and he can come to a conclusion in a systematic manner. The area and time of the study is more relevant in the case of social science research. So here in all the research, source of information is the most important thing. Without any information, it is not possible for the beginning researcher to find solution or to do research. So he has to depend upon the source of information. What are the sources of information that are available is the most important thing. So he has to trace, he has to find what are the sources and what are the area in which he can gather information, and what are the records that are going to provide the information for him is the most important thing. Information may be available from earlier works. If somebody has done the research, the earlier research data or earlier research finding or earlier research analysis can be taken. From this we can proceed. We can start, we can do a post research, that is, with that period this is the result. After that, what had happened, we can say that this is the post analysis. Or we may not be satisfied with the earlier study. Under such circumstances, the earlier study has given this conclusion, I am not happy, or the situation is really contradictory one, or the results are biased. I'm going to do research. The research is considered to be a new thing, that's known as a contra one, where the information will be available. For that, the basis is selected from the earlier studies. Data may be collected from secondary sources. So the published materials are available. When the published materials are available, say the data may be available from the government. So for example, in the case of India, the information may be available from census or the central government reports or state government reports. We have got reports from the local governments or from different agencies, those who are publishing the data. That data is considered to be the secondary data. The published data from authoritative sources, this can be used for our study. In addition to that, the published material, some articles may be published by some other scholars regarding that particular problem. We can take information from that secondary sources. In addition to that, especially for PhD research, the scholar should be very careful in collecting the primary data. Primary data is considered to be the most essential thing for doctoral research. When the person is doing a research in the particular field, especially in the case of applied research, what he has to do is he has to select some informants. Informants may be selected either by the census method or sample method or by case study method. With a well prepared questionnaire, he can gather information. That information is known as the primary information. The primary information can be tabulated, and this can be analyzed with the help of statistical tools, and with the help of the statistical tools he can use the data for his research, and this can also be used for the further research by some other scholar. So source of information is the most essential thing so far as the research is concerned. So every research scholar should know what are the sources, where we have to get information. All these things are considered to be the most essential thing. Next is the research scholar, when he has analyzed this, that is the sources, various sources, the secondary as well as the primary sources, he has to mention the overview of literature. After knowing the sources, where from the information is available, he has to overview the literature. It is not essential. A review of literature is the most important thing that connects the theory, that is the field in which he is doing research, and his research. But here, before going into the real overview of literature, the real review of literature, the scholar has to prepare the bibliography, where the materials are available, how many materials are available throughout the world. That is, the research is taking place even for a particular problem. Research is taking place throughout the world. Articles are coming from various sources, various publications, and the electronic media. When various informations are available, and he has to prepare the bibliography. By preparing a good bibliography, the scholar can review the literature. The review of literature is the first step for any research. If a person is interested in doing a research on the particular problem, he should be well versed in the earlier studies and the contemporary studies of the particular field. Then only he can do a systematic research. Otherwise, his research is an antedated one. So the review of literature, that is, even he need not mention the review of literature, can be a second chapter in his thesis, but in his research design, this is a step that's known as the overview of literature. In the overview of literature, he has to mention that this is the point from which I am doing research. This is the point where I am deviating from. I am trying to find an alternative solution for this. This is the way in which he has to mention, and he has to state the overview of literature. The earlier studies are the basis for the present study. So in most of the cases, especially in the case of applied research, we have got large number of earlier studies. From these earlier studies, we have to do the present study. So that is the starting point. For that starting point, the scholar has to mention the review of literature briefly. This overview of literature will be a thing that's giving a light for the researcher to travel. A short review of literature will substantiate the purpose of this research. When he is mentioning the statement of the problem, the context of the study, the overview of literature will substantiate why this fellow is doing research in the particular problem, whether it is essential. All those things can be substantiated with the help of the overview of literature. That's why the scholar should be very careful in giving this thing that is known as the overview of literature, the existing literature. The next thing is the operational definition of the concept. Conceptualization paved the way for the growth of any subject. New concepts are found and new concepts are popularized every day. When new concepts are coming to the academic world every day, we may be using, the research scholar may be using the concept. When he is using the concept, the future reader or the person who is evaluating the thesis may not be knowing what is the relevance of this concept, what is the meaning of this concept, why he has used the concept. That's why the scholar has to give the thing that is known as the definition of this concept, a simple operational definition of this concept. Even the case of unit and measurement, even within the country, the units of measurement are different in different places. Under such circumstances, even when you are using these regional languages, the concepts are different. When the concepts are different, the scholar has to define what is the concept, why he has given this concept, why he has used this concept, and what is the need for him to use the concept frequently. All these things should be mentioned by the research scholar. Operational definition of the new concept and rare concepts are essential to understand the problem and the study. So the scholar should be very careful in presenting the definition of this concept. Then only it is easy for the person, say he may be a reader or he may be an examiner to evaluate the thesis, he will understand the concept properly and the purpose will be served. Under these circumstances, the scholar should be very careful in using the concept, the popular concept, the concept which are used, and the rare concept or rare concept, definitely he has to give the definition. Methodology. This is the most important thing in any research. This is the difference between the research and ordinary writing. In the case of ordinary writings, even the case of paper presentation and other thing, methodology is not the most important thing. Even without methodology, even without a proper methodology, a person can present a paper, a scientific paper, a systematic paper. But when we are doing the research, methodology is the most important thing. What is the research? Research is we are having some question. The questions are put in the form of objectives. When the questions are put in the form of objectives, we are trying to find the solution for these objectives. For finding the solution, we are using different methods for data collection, data analysis and interpretation. So far as the research is concerned, whatever may be the research, methodology is the most important thing. Even when we are presenting a dissertation or a project work or a thesis, the examiners are very careful in analyzing whether he has used the proper methodology. So methodology is the most important thing. That's why in most of the universities, the methodology is taught to the student when they are doing the project work or dissertation or the thing that's known as a thesis. In social sciences, the researcher has to follow census method, sample survey or case study method. There are a number of things in the methodology, and modern scientific world has evolved new methodology. New researches are taking place in different parts of the world. Now the popular thing is, especially in the case of social science research, popular method is the census method, sample survey method and case study method. Census method is when you are selecting a village and analyzing the problem, you can gather information from all the population. That is known as the entire universe. When you are covering the entire universe and gathering information and coming to a conclusion, this method is known as the census method. When the area is a bigger one, say for example a taluk or a district or a state, it is not possible for the researcher to go around the entire state or the entire district, he has to resort to a method called the sample survey method. Sampling is considered to be a systematic and correct one in statistical research. So sampling and test of hypothesis are considered to be an important process in the research work, and every research scholar has to do this thing when he is adopting the sampling method. So when he is taking sample from heterogeneous, usually he may be selecting the sample from heterogeneous section, for which he has to select the stratified random sampling method. In modern mathematical analysis, especially the probability statistics is used. When he is resorting to the probability statistics, he has to resort to random sampling method. In the random sampling method, when the characters are considered to be character heterogeneous, he has to take this thing that is known as the stratified random sampling method. Similarly, for each sampling, we have got different method and sampling procedure. The proper method, proper sampling procedure should be adopted for sample surveys. And in the case of social studies, social sciences, case study is also popular. Case study method is also widely accepted throughout the world as a proper research. Taking one or few cases, from this we are making some generalization. That generalization will be used for policy making. So case study is also considered to be the thing that is known as the most relevant research method. So research scholar has to select whether he is resorting to the census method or sample method or case study method. This is the most important thing. Here, when the social sciences, we are dealing with the human beings. Quantification is not possible in all cases. When we are explaining our preferences, our choices, our whims and fancies, it is not possible for us to quantify everything. So qualitative methodology can also be adopted. In the case of qualitative techniques, we can use scaling methods. Similarly, number of methods are available even the case of even for the qualitative techniques in the social science methodology. And the quantitative techniques are frequently used. And now social sciences are predominantly dominated by mathematics and statistics. In every field we are having the mathematical tools and mathematical techniques. Even the case of biology, we are having this biometrics, biostatistics. Even the case of economics, we are having econometrics. Mathematical tools, statistical tools are used by the research scholar in the social science. Whether they are knowing the statistical and mathematical tools, computer is ready to help. With the help of the computer, we can use this quantitative technique for their research. By using the quantitative technique, the quality of the research improves, and we are having the scientific nature of the thesis. In addition to the scientific quality of the thesis, prediction is also possible. The purpose of the research is also served. The quality of the social science research is also raised to the physical science research. For that, every person should use this thing that is known as the quantitative technique for analysis and interpretation. With the help of the numbers, we can give the result, and also we can interpret, and the results will be considered to be the most appropriate one. Use of statistical techniques for analysis. Now, the research scholar, when they are learning this methodology, research methodology, statistical tools are also taught. Most of the theses, present day theses, are using measures of central tendency, measures of dispersion, correlation, regression, even the case of simple regression, simple correlation, multiple correlation, for their analysis. When the data is not sufficient available, interpolation and extrapolations are also used. When the statistical tools are familiar, when the statistical techniques are familiar to the research scholar, it is good for him to use the appropriate statistical tools. By using the appropriate statistical tools, the thesis the research report will be precise, and the desired goal is achieved with the help of the statistical tools. So in the use of statistical technique, what type of statistical technique should be used is the most important thing for the research scholar that should be mentioned in the research design itself. Use of statistical tests for accepting and rejecting the various hypotheses. Formulation of hypothesis is not merely for formulation. When a hypothesis is formulated, what we have to do is we have to accept the hypothesis or reject the hypothesis. When the hypotheses are formulated, we are formulating the null hypothesis. When you are accepting the hypothesis, we are rejecting the null hypothesis. When we are rejecting the null hypothesis, we are accepting the hypothesis. When we are accepting the null hypothesis, actually we are rejecting the hypothesis. When a hypothesis is rejected, we have to form the alternative hypothesis and travel in the research process and find the solution properly. So formulation of hypothesis is mainly for testing. Mainly for testing means for accepting and rejecting the hypothesis. By accepting and rejecting, the research scholar can come to a conclusion. The conclusion will be a scientific and systematic one. Every research, especially in the case of social science research, limitations are many. Say time is a limitation. Money may be the limitation, and the availability of material may be the limitation. All these things should be specified in the research design itself. It is not possible for any research scholar to trace everything available on the particular field. So he has to mention that this study is related to this particular area alone, and the study has analyzed this problem. Only under this framework the research scholar is proceeding on the research. He has to mention what are the limitations and what is the need for him to select a restricted sample, or why he is resorting to sample survey instead of census method, or why he is resorting to case study method. All these things should be put in the form of the limitation. Then only he can escape from the questions of the examiner or questions of the reader or the persons, those who are participating in the public viva, the examinations. So he had, that is limitation, give the scope, the narrow scope of the research. Research is, that is, he is starting with a point. It is not a thing that is a wider area. He is interested in finding solution for a single problem or problem, 2 or 3 problems connected in the single issue. So there is no need for him to touch the other thing that can be limited, that can be given in the form of limitation of the study. Limitation can be mentioned in the research design itself. When it's mentioned the research design, the examiner or the person, those who are going through the thesis, will not have any doubt other than this thing, other than this, even though the problem is related with that topic, they will not think otherwise. So it is easy for the person, that is known as the scholar, to proceed in the particular field where he wants to do research, and he can reach the destination properly. So the research design, that is, he has given all the steps. When he has given all the steps, and even though this the scholars in the initial stages of his research, he has to think about the chapter arrangement, how to present this research. Say he has given all the things, that is the necessary things for preparing the research design. The final step of this research design is the chapter arrangement. He has to think what should be the size of the research, how many pages he has to write, how to present this research thesis in a particular form is the most important thing. He has to arrange in various chapters. It is not the thing for him to present just like a textbook. He need not present some 20 or 30 chapters. Some 5 or 6 or 7 chapters are essential for a good research report. And each chapter, the presentation of research work in a logical and readable manner is a vital task for the researcher. So he has to present in a logical manner, and the person who is reading the thesis should read in a sequence, and he can understand the problem, and he should understand the complications and how the research process was carried out, and how he has reached the solution. All these things should be presented in each and every chapter. The scholarly work can be divided into few chapters and submit in the form of their dissertation or thesis. So many universities are prescribing the pages for the dissertation as well as the thesis. As per the administrative specification, we have to prepare these chapters, say 5 chapters, 6 chapters or 7 chapters, and each chapter should have some specific aspect of the research. For example, the first chapter may contain the research design as an introductory thing. Second chapter may have the review of literature. Third chapter may have this thing, the profile of the study area. Fourth chapter may be the thing that is methodology, how he has started the problem and how he has gathered this information and how the analysis was carried out, with what are the statistical tools used for the analysis, and how he has interpreted this thing can be presented in the methodology chapter. Especially in the case of doctoral thesis, giving a separate methodology chapter is a welcoming one, and most of the foreign university theses are having separate chapter for methodology. From this methodology, the future research scholar can also use this methodology for their research. So methodology should be specifically mentioned. The detailed account of this methodology can be presented in one chapter. Next, analysis of the data. We can use statistical thing that is known as tabulation, statistical tools like averages, percentages, time series data. All these things can be used for this thing. Analysis, correlation, regression, interpolation, extrapolation. With all these things, by using all the statistical and mathematical tools, we can analyze the data and we can come to a conclusion. The conclusion is the numerical figure. But in the case of social science research, we want the answer, we want the solution in a specified manner, that is in the form of a word, for which from interpretation, that is from the statistical results, we have to interpret the results. When we are interpreting the results, that will be a good aspect. This thing, the main aspect of the thesis is the analysis and interpretation. This may be in the form of 2 or 3 chapters. Next, we can give this thing that's known as the findings and the solution for the problem. We can give in the form of the separate chapter. In the solution, we can also give the suggestion for the problem and in our research. The last chapter, we can give the summary and conclusion. In the summary and conclusion, we can list what are the things that we have taken and how we have come to the conclusion, what is the result of the study, and even we can suggest the future scope for the research for the future research scholar. This is a way in which we can arrange the chapter.